everybody, I'm Joey Paul and I'm an indie author, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am taking part in the Authortube seminar series, affectionately known as Wordstock, which was created by story detective Robert Jones, and basically it's a group of Authortubers coming together on the same day and discussing the same writing topic. And the topic today is showing. All the other videos will be linked up in a playlist up in the cards and also linked down below. So talking about showing, I have talked about it before, I have delved into it, but I thought that I would take a different approach this time and kind of come at it from a different angle of the whole like show don't tell, in why I think showing is important, yes, but it's not completely everything. Like there are some times when showing isn't the right side of things to do, and the best thing to do is to tell. So when did you show? Showing is basically when you give a lot of description, you invoke a lot of emotion, and you really pull the reader into the story, and you make it so that they are feeling what the protagonist is feeling or the character is feeling, and they are seeing the surroundings, and they are sensing the danger or the intrigue or the tension or suspense or anything else like that. They're sensing that, and they're with protagonists and the characters, and they're with them completely in the scene. And that kind of showing is really kind of like making sure that you have a lot of the description, making sure that you narrow down those tiny details, and making sure that you really pull the reader into the scene, and that you have all of the scene around them. And showing for that reason is a really good idea. It's a really good way to draw the reader in, and the whole idea is to really just have your reader alongside your characters and feeling what they feel. When it comes to how I show when there are big things like a big reveal coming, or there's a red herring or a clue dropped. But you have to remember that I write mostly crime mystery, although some dystopian and some sci-fi and fantasy, so I'm more of a multi-genre author. And so generally speaking, when I'm showing, I'm doing it in a way that implies to the reader this scene is important, this bit of information is important, and you should remember it. Because that's the whole point of showing, is to make sure it stands out in the reader's mind. Now when it comes to when you shouldn't show, I think that's probably going to be covered in another seminar, but if not, I thought I'd just add my 10 cents here. And that's when you shouldn't show is when you want the impact of the words. And that's basically like when you have that big reveal and you have an antagonist or somebody else come out and you want just them to impact the words, that's when you don't show. That's when you just slam the reader with a sentence or two and you tell them instead. Now some people will say that arguing that you should show that, but I guess for me it's about what I want the reader to feel. I want the reader to feel left wanting for more, so I will tell them. If I want them to feel everything that they can, then I will show them. And that's basically how it's worked for me. Like I've written crime mystery books where the big reveal happens and then it's just a sentence to tell them who it is, and then I break for a chapter, and that leaves them wanting to turn the page to find out more. I think to my memory that really sticks in is Blackout. When the big bad is revealed, it's just a sentence of it was so and so, I won't say who because spoilers, and then that's the end of the chapter, and the reader is left kind of thinking, okay, well it's so and so, but what the hell's happening? Because up until that point I had been showing what Tally was feeling, and I had been showing the issues she was going through, and I had been showing what she was thinking and everything else like that. So then telling who it is packs a bigger punch, at least in my opinion. Now I will say that when I first started out writing, I wasn't really very good at showing versus telling. I was more sort of telly than I was showy. But as I've grown as a writer, I have gotten better at showing, and it is something that you need to practice and you need to learn about, and it's something that you really need to focus on and hone your craft on, because it's really easy to get caught up in the idea that you should show absolutely everything. And I've read books where people have shown absolutely everything. It wasn't fun, because you don't know what's important, and you don't know whether every single sentence and every single emotion and every single thing is important later down the line, and you kind of get lost in this haze of all this feelings and emotions, and you don't know what matters and what doesn't. Like, if someone is calling attention to a bag, say for instance, then you have to assume that that bag is important. You have to assume that that bag is going to play a big part in the story as a whole, otherwise why would they go into so much detail about it? And I think that's the essence of showing, is the fact that you're giving the reader that extra detail, and you're giving the reader that extra chance to focus on this little piece of information and make sure that it's file it away and make sure that it's important for later. So yeah, that's basically how I go about showing, how I go about knowing when showing is the right thing, is if it's important to the plot, if it's something where I want to build tension or suspense, or I want to draw out the reader and I want to make sure they're feeling what the characters are feeling and wondering what the characters are wondering, that's when I will show. And I will do it in a way that makes sure I heighten all the senses, and I make sure that I include every detail, that I don't have a white room, that I have a very colourful room, and that I have made it clear that this scene is important, and that's why I'm really showing you every little detail. I also make sure that it's something that I'm going to call back on later. Usually speaking, if I'm showing something in that kind of level of detail, then I'm doing it to call back to it later. But in my mind, showing is a really important part of writing. It's a really important part of learning to write and learning what to show and what not to show and all the rest of it. But as I said, it shouldn't be something that you do all the time. Like, every single page should not be showing. And people might disagree with me there, but that's just my opinion and experience. So there we have it. That's my thoughts on showing. That's my thoughts on how you should approach it and how you should go about it. And all the other channels that have taken part in this month's Wordstock will be linked down below, and please do check them out. And also remember to come back next month for another Wordstock, another seminar series on a completely different topic. So what are your thoughts on showing? Do you think that you should show all the time, or that there should be some telling in there? Let me know down in the comments below. So that's all I've got time for today. If you want to support my channel, you can comment, like, or subscribe. I post new videos on Thursdays. You can find me all over social media, and my books are available everywhere. And don't forget to pick up Lights On or Lights Out, all the links to which are listed below. Thanks for watching, and remember to keep writing. Bye.